All right, well, good morning, everybody. Clay on the trail here. I am at the East Fork of the Bear River trailhead. I'm gonna hike up here a little ways this morning to the trail fork, and then I'm gonna go up towards Allsop Lake, but just going to the top of the little top of the rise. At that point, there's a waterfall up at the top of the hill. Lots of high water right now, so all the rivers are running at capacity, and I really enjoy seeing the water pouring over the rocks, and waterfall ought to be pretty spectacular today. It did snow just last weekend. Snow levels were down below 8,000 feet. So it snowed here, but as you can see, everything is melted off except for the top, for the peaks. There's definitely some beautiful shots coming up this way. There's a egg that didn't make it. You can see here. Alright, I know I've explained this a number of times before on other videos, but anybody watching for the first time, these are the remains of old tie hack cabins. The UNS has a pretty prolific history of building the Intercontinental Railroad. There were a lot of people that lived up here, and they lived up here in the wintertime. They would cut suitable trees down for the making of railroad ties. They would drag them over to the river in the winter when it was easy to move stuff, and then this time of year in the spring when the water got high, it would carry those logs down to some probably settlements back in those days. They would be taken out and made into railroad ties. So there's a lot of history up here. So there was at one time several cabins in this area. Now this larger cabin, this right here in front, would have been where they gathered, like a dining room and a recreation area. And then the smaller cabins that are scattered around would house the men, would have been their sleeping cabins. They were very simple, not a lot of perks. There's an area, not very far from here. It's in the Uintas. It's just, I don't know, 20 or 30 miles away from here. Is named Suicide Park. And a park in the forest is just a big meadow. So it's the big meadow of suicide, and basically it's named after a whole bunch of lumberjacks that all got winter depression living up here away from their families. The cold, the short days, the whatever was on their minds, and they all took their own lives. So besides the dangers of being a lumberjack, they faced many other things. Okay guys, I made it to the wilderness area. Should be the end of wheeled vehicles, motorized things. Hang gliders apparently also. I was trying to figure out if we could ride our bikes to this point. This says close to motorized vehicles, equipment, hang gliders, and bicycles. So apparently to here, bikes would be okay. The first stretch of the trail where you drop from the parking lot down to the meadow would be pretty ugly, but the rest of it might be a fun ride. I thought I read somewhere though that you can't have bicycles on the East Fork of the Bear River, but I didn't see any signs for that at the trailhead. And I know they're prohibited in the wilderness area, and I wonder if that's what I was being told, is just not in the wilderness area. Maybe another day. Okay, so I made it to the trail junction. For those of you who haven't gone back and watched some of my other videos, I believe it was, I want to say it was last year, but it might have been the year before. I get old and senile as it happens. I took a good friend of mine, a co-worker and friend, and his daughter up to Clayonthetrail Lake and Northeast Lake and did a pack trip up there. Her name is Morgan, and I think my video was called Morgan's First Pack Trip. Some beautiful country up here, and one of the first things you have to do after this trail junction here is cross the river. Now, I've shown some river footage. Mostly horsepackers go up there because even when the river goes down, it's still a gnarly crossing. There is no bridge. You're going to get wet at least to your crotch, if not up to your waistline. So, great trip, beautiful country. Some really beautiful lakes up there, and the fishing at the upper lake, which I want to say was northeast, but don't quote me on that, was awesome. But I am going this other way. The river forks right up here, and I'm going to follow the fork that goes up towards Allsop Lake, which is, again, a beautiful campsite. I did a pack trip up there with Clay Zimmerman of Clayonthetrail Pack Goats. Packed some goats up in there, caught some fish. Beautiful, beautiful country up high. I'm only going up here another half mile or so, and there's a waterfall. That was the whole basis for this trip. Okay, I just hit the switchback on the trail. Kind of takes you up, just up there, and takes you up on top of the waterfall. This is where I bail, and there's a half of a trail here. I'm not the only person that does this. Not that there's anything wrong with doing this. And I'm going to come over here to this fork of the river and get a shot from the bottom of the waterfall. I think I can see it already. All right, so I ended up skirting around some pretty sketchy stuff along that waterfall. I recommend good waterproof boots. But when I pop that on top, the trail's right here. So I'm just gonna follow it back around. Somewhere up here, there's got to be a good shot of this. I'm gonna sit down and have some lunch. I got another flavor of the split. Peanut butter, I think this one's almond butter and strawberry jam. So sit down, get some energy going, and hike on out of here. Well, that's a deer track. Not really that big of a deal, but it's fresh. I've run into all sorts of tracks coming up here. Moose, mostly. A few deer. But I haven't seen the animals that made them. So, that'd be kind of nice to run into something. All right, so this is the trail. I got back to the fork in the trail and I went up towards the Priord Northeast Lakes trail. This is the crossing that you'd have to do. It's doable, don't take that the wrong way, but it is swift, it's deep, and I'd rather do it on a horse. And if I think there's a couple more river crossings up ahead further on the trail. So what a beauty of a day. Okay guys, we're coming pretty close to the trailhead. The trail forks right up here. The horses stay down in the bottom and hikers go up to the top. It's crazy. Most of the flowers that are blooming right now are dandelions, but they're pretty in their own way. When they're yellow, I don't like them much. When they're at seed, but it just adds the right splash of color to the trail. Ooh, there's a chipmunk. That's the only live thing I've seen other than Cash. So I appreciate anybody that's watching this It's been a weird spring for me. There for a while I was getting out at least once a week, no matter what. I just had that kind of schedule with work, and I guess I still do. I'm just finding other things that are filling my time. But it's going to get better. I'm down to 3 more weeks, and we'll probably be either so busy I don't get out anymore, which I hope not. That will never happen. Or I'm going to have a lot more free time. So thank you for coming along. Hopefully you enjoyed the waterfall. It was pretty spectacular this time of year. It always is. I think I did pretty close to, I don't know, I think 9 miles, 8.8, 8.9 miles, somewhere right in there by the time I'm done. Just a day hike. So please give me a thumbs up. Share. If you haven't, please subscribe. It's how we build our channels.